Hi, this is about the four principal parts of the Latin verb. Latin verbs have four principal parts, so when you're memorizing their dictionary form, you have to memorize them in four pieces. So to take amo as our example, the four pieces are amo, amare, amavi, amatum. There's two things that you need to be able to do with four principal parts. You need to be able to have a basic grammatical understanding of them, what they are, and you need to understand their names, and you need to understand, on the other hand, the way in which to form them. And there are various patterns. There's not complete consistency, but in first conjugation verbs, which is what we are mainly studying right now, there is a basic pattern which will work for you 9/10 of the time, something like that. So let's take amo as our example. Amo, amare, amavi, amatum. So, amo, amare, amavi, amatum. The endings are o, are, avi, and atum. And as I say, those will work with most verbs. So, walk, I walk, is ambulo. So if you want to have the four principal parts of walk, ambulo, ambulare, ambulavi, ambulatum. You can see all of this on pages 56 and 57. This is chapter 10. Okay? So I'm going to give you labels for these as well, which you should learn because I can quiz you or test you on them. Let's just call the first principal part first person present indicative. Okay? And the third principal part we can call first person perfect indicative. The second principal part you can call infinitive, and let's call the fourth principal part participle. Okay, we won't get any more in-depth than that. So, going from left to right, amo, amare, amavi, amatum, they are first person present tense indicative, and then infinitive, and then first person perfect tense indicative, and then participle. Now, how do you translate them? Going from left to right, I love, that's your first person present indicative, and then to love, and then I have loved, and then for the participle, the fourth one, the fourth principal part, amatus, or amatum, either one will work, loved. Okay? And this is what you see on page 57. So this works for most of them. Clamo, clamare, clamavi, clamatum. That's shout. So I shout, to shout. I have shouted and shouted. Clamo, clamare, clamavi, clamatum. Notice this follows the pattern o, are, avi, atum that we talked about. If you look on page 57 in the list of verbs there, you'll see that you get down to sto. That's stand. So sto, stare, and you would expect stavi, but it isn't. It's steti. So sto, stare, steti, statum. Where you see a variation, it's almost always going to be in the third principal part. And that's the kind of thing that you'll see. So not stavi, but steti. So whenever you're memorizing a verb, you have to memorize the four principal parts and pay careful attention to see if there might be some variation in the third principal part. A variation from the avi that you would expect to something else. In addition to the verbs that are listed on page 57, there are two verbs that we already know that are mentioned again on page 56. Do and sum. You can see them bolded about halfway down on page 56 right here. Okay, so the four principal parts for do, which is give, right, are do, dare, not davi, but dedi. Do, dare, dedi datum. That's I give, to give, I have given, and given. Do, dare, dedi datum. The second one listed in that little section there is sum, and you know that sum means I am, to be. It's the verb to be in its various forms. And that sum is not a first conjugation verb. It's the only verb we've studied so far that is not a first conjugation verb. That's why its pattern of conjugation is very much different from what we'd expect, right? So the four principal parts of sum are sum, esse, fui, futurus. And the meanings of those are I am, to be, I have been, and futurus means about to be or going to be. It varies from the pattern. Okay, that's the four principal parts. There you go with that, chapter 10.